welcome to Hiring Nowadays, a podcast about what makes and breaks successful hiring.
Hello, everyone. This is Daniela, your host for today's episode. My guest today is a very special one. She's very knowledgeable in the marketing and sales areas for startups. And she's very special because we used to work together at Awana as a team. So, welcome, Maria Angelica. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hi, Danny. It's a pleasure to be here too. When I received the email, I was like, oh, I remember all the things that we used to do together and how great team all things apart, but we were a great team. So I like it working with you. And I'm happy to be back talking today with someone from Awana.
Yes, thank you. I was also very excited. Okay, so first things first. I would like you to share how long have you been working in the industry, like with the startups and all, um, before we go and dive into the questions.
For sure. I started my journey with startups back in 2018, so it must be almost 6 to 7 years. I've worked in Colombia and also here in Ecuador. I'm from Venezuela, but my experiences with startups in Colombia and Ecuador. Um, Mostly for innovation at the beginning, then with the startups with purpose, and then recently last year with startups in the US. Um, that some of them have some social purpose too, but some of them were more like commercial, more like high scale, if you wanna say it. Mostly is in the digital marketing experience, but always connected to the sales part, as I don't think they are separate. I mean, of course, there are different teams inside of a company, but later on, I would like to share more about that. I think they complement each other. So my view is always trying to get some results for the sales team to try to make them work together in order to achieve the big goal that the company has. So yeah, always, as I say, digital marketing, but trying to see the KPIs from the sales team and also to see what other strategy we can improve in order to serve that other part of the company.
And how does this work? Like when you start advising the startup, you talk with the sales team, with the founder. How does the process starts covering marketing needs?
Normally, it's with the founders. They are the one somehow in a startup. Yeah, startups are normally small teams. So even though they might have someone from sales, normally the sales leader or person is focused on that because that's the most important thing for them. So founders don't want the sales team to be like distracted, or I mean, they added them to the conversation when it's needed, like specific insights from the sales team. But apart from that, the founders are well known about what's happening on the sales team. And also they have like a light of what they want with their marketing efforts. So that's why they start the conversation. And normally founders are also looking for new ways to innovate, for new ways to get more sales. So yeah, they are the ones like carrying that flag, looking for someone to help them, to advise them, and normally they are the ones starting the conversation. And yeah, I mean, they're the founders. They know from the beginning. Maybe the sales leader started later in the company, so they for sure know if they have some basis on marketing. They are the ones that for sure know if that happened. And maybe they started the company with someone that had a marketing background. So yeah, they are the ones that really have that historical information to help you out understand a little bit more where the current situation is and where they want it to be in the next 2 3 years with the marketing efforts. So we start normally, by understanding like the current stage, what they're doing in digital, what channels they are in. They're selling at all, they're not selling, they're trying to understand their market. They have their buyer personas stated. It's like, yeah, an exam of the current situation, but not only seeing like, okay, so you have followers or not, but understanding their overall efforts that they have done. I have in my notes there, behind scene, that it's not only like trying to be in the channels that you hear is more popular. It's trying to understand the needs of your customers or their pain points and how they use digital channels to be communicated or to be informed. And apart from that, or parting from that, better say, trying to be in those channels. So you don't need to have presence in every digital platform, but in the right ones. And that is another thing to start doing when you start like advising them, because normally they want it to be in all the channels or in the most populars, and sometimes you need to say, hello, this is not where you're selling, this is not where you're getting customers. So you're putting efforts, you're putting money there, and it's actually it's not bringing anything to you. So that's another thing to do. Some, if they are in the very earlier stage, it's also understanding their unique value proposition, because other things that they do is that they want to communicate everything, share everything, all of the benefits. Sometimes that for the end user is confusing. And instead of trying to do that, it's better just to say the best thing that you have to say, how your company differentiates from others. And that's the start that you need to communicate one and repeatedly, once and every time. So yeah, if they're really like in the starting process, trying to help them understand what is the unique value proposition that they need to share with the in the efforts that they're doing.
So, just as like as a recap, so a company would hire you in this case based on the problem of not selling, right? Even though
Mhm.
they would have a salesperson there, or the founder has some sales or marketing idea, um, the thing is that they are not scaling. So they would actually need a new perspective to see what's happening. So then you come in, create like a diagnostics, right? And you would be examining channels, you would be examining a few of assets that they might need. So you mentioned the buyer personas, the unique value proposition. What other assets am I missing here?
I mean, reading and like thinking about the experience that I have with some companies for this
Mhm.
session today, I also thought about, it depends actually on where you are right now. So yeah, as I say, if you are at the beginning, maybe the unique value proposition. But if you are in another stage where you wanted to grow and you need a growth hacker, maybe. So you have done everything that is possible in your hands. You've been like profitable for a couple of years, but now it's time for you to grow. So there is different strategies there to do, and it's a little bit more aggressive, and also your bet it's high, because maybe you need to put more money in, maybe ads, or maybe doing some trials in new channels that are expensive than the regular ones. So you need to work with what you have, but always based on the results. So if your results right now it's 2 sales a month, so you need to start working with the basics. I like putting all the efforts in order to say somehow, to make sure that your email marketing campaigns are on time and they're useful, that you're posting regularly on the 2 or 3 social media channels that you choose, that you have a very curate ad campaign on Facebook or on Google Ads or on YouTube, if the case, to make sure that everything that you're supposed to be doing, it's happening, and also measuring the results from that. And then with a bigger company, for sure, you should have already all of those established. And now it's time to think, yeah, so maybe the marketing leader needs someone that help him or her with the growth effort. Or if you were doing marketing some other way, not with a marketing leader, so now you need a growth hacker. Because as I say, not my specialty, but I know there is a profile there that is different from the marketing leader. And that the growth hacker might need to complement the other person that is working with you, the other role that is the marketing leader.
So you just mentioned a few of like the metrics that a company should be looking for when establishing a marketing strategy, right? So it's not only about followers, it's about performance in a few words, right? So
The most,
see,
yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
The most important for me is the conversion rate between, no matter what you're doing to bring the leads, someone in the sales teams needs to convert them, right? So how the money that you put in there in marketing efforts are converting something that it's also profitable. So you're not spending like $3 million on your marketing efforts and you're getting thousands in revenue. So that's a team effort for sure. That is marketing and sales understanding each other and having a base report on that weekly if it's possible, like for small efforts, maybe monthly in campaigns that are a bigger scale. But yeah, conversion rate for sure is something to look at. And you might think, oh yeah, that's obvious. They forget to think about that.
So when talking about team efforts and talking about to like getting to that stage to actually track conversion rate, how does this happen? Do you have like a specific example of a company that went through this process?
Sure. I mean, it's team effort in terms, because normally when there is a sales team, it's two or three. So you have maybe the leader, but you also have the representative that are the ones that actually making the sales. The sales leader, it's taking care of their team and making sure they're selling. But there is also the sales members or the sales team that they are the ones talking to the customers, right? So they get the leads and their job is to convert them into customers. So there is also someone in the other side, like in the marketing team, that should be accountable for the leads that they're bringing, to see their quality, to see the number for sure. Sometimes, yeah, we need 300 leads in order to convert 15, but sometimes we only need 30 in order to convert 5. So it depends on the company and like the the type of business that they have. But yeah, you will see that. So maybe it's someone inside of the marketing team that normally it could be this marketing leader that is also overviewing the effort of the other parts of the marketing team. Marketing team could be content creator, a social media specialist or a social media manager, an ads manager, and maybe a graphic or visual designers. All of them will help produce what they need to have inside of the marketing team in order to attract the leads. But the marketing leader is the one seeing and overviewing if they're using Facebook ads, if they're using Google ads, if they're doing Reels, if they're doing just TikTok, if they're doing a marketing campaign for this month because if there is a promotional that they need to do. So that marketing leader should be, it could be that person reporting, so that they receive the products or the information from the marketing team that it's producing the content or putting the effort there. But then it's this marketing leader who brings the data to the sales team. Okay, so this is what we did. We collect or we bring to the company 100 leads this month. There should be some data like or some spreadsheet. If you're starting, that's okay. I've done it without a spreadsheet. If you have a CRM, that will be good too. I love to work with CRMs, but I understand that sometimes they're expensive. So either way, it doesn't matter the tool. What it matters is that you're doing that. So there you will see, okay, sales representative number one, how it went. I have that you got from 100 leads, you got the first vary. So how many deals did you close from these from the leads? And also it's good to see what sources bring that lead in order to see which source is working better. But yeah, it's definitely like conversation that you need to have. I mean, reports can give you that in CRM, as I say, but yeah, like making it accessible for everyone, and a spreadsheet will do the job too, depend on how you are. But that's with companies that I've worked with before, we did that at least once a week because you don't want to get to the end of the month and the sales team say, I didn't have any lead this month, and you are like, oh my god, but why you didn't tell me that before? So we can do something because there are things that can be done before it's the end of the month. So yeah, so you don't end it up with no sales because marketing team didn't bring the leads to the table. So it's important to have those conversations. I will say, yeah, maybe simple ones every week, like just reporting how it went, and then maybe at the end of the month, something a little bit deeper than that.
So it sounds like a lot. Like when you are and let's break it down into pieces. So when you are advising a company, what's like the average size, team size you've worked with? Like, do they have a sales person? Do they have like a someone in charge of visual? Like, what's let's set in context the team size for the company that you work with.
Normal, it could be not bigger than 30 employees.
Okay.
Yeah, and normally there was always as I say, it's like as a sales leader, the sales team, and then always at least a sales manager. I'm sorry, a marketing manager or a lead with two or at least two other members of their team. Why? Because at least content creation takes time, but it's not the only thing, for sure. So if you want to just to hire like a social media manager, that's solving one issue. Or you expect him or her to do that. But maybe having like the full scope, it's okay not to have hope for that person to give that to you, because it's not her role. I know that social media managers might have they grow in their experience, but normally they're like super advanced. Or maybe if your startup is starting, you can have someone that is maybe junior mid-level social media manager, but you want maybe someone senior for the marketing lead. It's different. I know that normally is like mixed or confused the roles. But even though with the startup that I work with, if we were 30, I'm telling you, at least these three that were based. And then we have like contractors for building our website, or maybe when we had some events, we also have external vendors. So of course, that also marketing leader is not like exhausted, but it's more um, in the thinking
Strategical
process.
thinking. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, despite the size, then the fact is that they're not converting. So we went through that already. They would need to actually start talking between. So it sounds like there's like a disconnection between them, the sales team, or the people that that makes the sales, but also with the people that are working within like the cultural part, the awareness part, the branding part, like whatever marketing related area, right? So there's maybe a practical tip there, that having your notes, your weekly notes on the amount of leads you're generating versus those that are converting and those that are actually closing as deals, right? So that's a specific kind of like homework you would advise someone to do. And that you mentioned, well, it's not, this is not typical. You would seem, you mention it like you would think it's obvious, but sometimes like they just don't track that. So, what would be those things or the metrics, or what are like those things that they are tracking that they should forget about? That that's not the way.
I have some, yeah, especially with startups that the founders are normally very into the marketing effort, so they want to be there. I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's just sometimes we need to give confidence to the person that is in charge of the role. Um, and there are a few things that I think that can look aside or give total control to the marketing leader. So one of them is what I said at the beginning. Stop trying to communicate how good is their product or their service. Instead, try to communicate how you're solving a situation or paying for your customer. And for that, creating the buyer personas at the very early stage. And I have done it with companies that already have like 5 years running and they didn't even have a buyer persona established. There is where you actually understand their needs, their pains, where they are, how they feel, what type of content do they read. And from there, if where you should start creating a strategy from. So yes, I know, and I'm saying this because they fell in love with the projects, and that's okay. I understand they're their babies, but it's not how good it is, even though it is super good. It's how your product, service, whatever you're doing, it's helping that other person because that's the way you're going to catch them. That's the way you're going to get their attentions. Um, the other theme is trying to communicate, as I said before, also every single benefit the products have. And that's trying to take everything on your plate, and it's hard. So focus on the things that make you unique and choose the right channels, 2 or 3, and focus on that so you don't waste money, you don't waste time. It's a lot to do really when you when you start. It's a lot. So try, if you have that handled, maybe later your team also grows and you can start doing more, but at the beginning focus on the few things, and choose the right channels, 2 or 3 platforms that actually it's working for you. As I say, it's maybe marketing, it's maybe just the website, it's maybe not everyone needs to have an app, but maybe with the website and the right social selling, it's the way to go. Um, yeah, so those are the things that I should recommend not to do as starting with the team, especially trying to save some money and time there, especially time.
So this took me back to maybe a year ago or more than a year ago when we started actually working together at Awana with like few resources. So reflecting on your time there, working with us, um, is there like a concrete example of like that you could mention you successfully supported the business and the team? Like what were these things you suggested and implemented that actually make the business change, you know?
Yeah, I remember my time there, and yeah, our sales team was small, but I think that with my role, I was able to let the marketing team dream, but also to bring them back to numbers and to concrete results. That's important too. As I say, marketing and sales team should be allies. They should be working together, and they should always be prioritizing, I mean, like complementing each other. We don't want a marketing team that's producing a lot of content, doing all of these strategies and activities, and at the end, the leads that they're bringing, they don't work for the business company, for the business purpose. And then in the other way, we don't want a sales team that had a handful of leads, but they're doing nothing with them, and they're not giving or yeah, like making true the promises that the marketing team did, because sometimes that happens. Marketing teams make everything prettier. The thing is to attract the right customer, but we promise things in order for them to come to us. So we don't want to give a promise, and then when it's time to sales, it was half through what we said. We want to match that. Because at the end, if it's even if they ended up becoming your customers, they're going to be disappointed, and that for the customer relationship, it's going to be hurtful later, at the beginning or at the end, but something is it's going to happen. So I think it was a good intersection there between the sales team and the marketing team. And also with the foundations, I mean, sales it's what I did the most, but I used to work closely with the content team there, and we create this SEO base of knowledge or base of things that we did, that I think maybe they're bringing together results right now, even 1, 2, 3 years later. But if a company needs to focus on something later, I mean, at the beginning, their efforts, I will say SEO. And we did that at that time when we were starting. And in the long term, that helps a lot, even more than having 10,000 followers in Instagram or something like that. So yeah, so those are the things that yeah, like being this person that enables the marketing and the sales team. You should always have someone, I mean, with the skills, maybe not someone dedicated entirely with that role, for that role, but with that background would be great. And also someone that prioritizes SEO for your company too.
So not prioritizing SEO would be a common behavior you would see among business owners?
They try to do it, but they're actually, I mean, there is so many things. I mean, marketing is like all over the place. Everyone is a marketing guru right now, marketing expert. There's so many things saying out there. So it's confusing sometimes. I will go back to Neil Patel, for example. He's one of the best. They have really good uh, content around it. But there also are like extended courses to people to be professionals in that matter. So even though it's not that they don't prioritize, they hear somewhere that they need to do SEO, but I think they get confused and overwhelmed with all the things that are out there about SEO. And again, in terms or in the way to try to uh, mm, take advantage of the resources that you have, I will say to try to talk to someone that have the experience, that yeah, the expertise on doing that. So I mean, that is a good investment for the company at the end. Maybe it's a little costly at the beginning, but as I say, and you've seen it, I think in the long run, it's beneficial. So yeah, they haven't, maybe they don't know, they prioritize it, but they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and maybe you would have a different opinion, and here we could have like a little debate. But as I see it, marketing efforts are not specifically results that you would see in a short-term period of time. And this has happened to us in ways like, oh, we want to work on this, and since it's not giving us results, let's change the strategy. So we've kind of corrected those behaviors, and I'm actually curious to see whether this is something common you experience with your clients, or is there like anything else, like as a challenge marketers face when implemented a strategy?
I'm sorry.
So
I got lost with the last question. I'm sorry.
no worry. Let me rephrase it. So I was telling you that we've experienced within the team that it could be a bit of frustration where you implement a strategy and you wouldn't see results, but then it's like, oh, this is not working, let's change the strategy. But sometimes marketing efforts take a bit of time to see them work. So do you see this as a common behavior in your clients as well? Is this something that actually takes some education, like involvement there, to help startup founders or whoever in charge of a business understand that sometimes seeing results, it's not a matter of 20, 40, 50 hours, or even like a month period of time.
This is a marathon, definitely not a sprint. Patience is key here. Yeah, and definitely I've seen some of my customers like, but I did the call for this event and I only got like 10 participants, and of course none of them buy from me. Okay, but it's your first event. For sure, you wouldn't expect a call like or presence of 1,000 people there if it's your first time, right? But that first event allowed you to see what is working, what type of content do they like. They were interested, participate. If they participate, what were their questions? And from there, maybe you can create a new event that is more popular than the last one. And with that many other things, it also depends maybe on what you're doing, like the activity or the strategy at that time. But like your foundation should be the same. That shouldn't change. That is by persona, channels, the overall strategy. But maybe what you can pivot is the okay, today or this month we're using images that reflects how they're feeling. We're using faces and emotions, and to see if this CTA work or no. Okay, it didn't work. So how we can change it for the next month? But still, it's the same by a persona. You don't went and look for another person to sell. You're selling to the right person, but you change the message in order to see if this new message is going to work or no. Um, the same with ads, for example. Maybe you segment the audience Facebook ads in a way that not many people is clicking on it. Okay, so you're spending money there weekly, daily, change something at least with a week within a week to see the next week what's happening and if the algorithm is taking better your ad or is more people responding to your ad. So those little things might be changed, but like the foundations are the same. So I mean, it's still not for like forever, but maybe for 6 months it's the same. In 6 months you haven't sold anything for that person. So okay, that is not your right buyer persona. Look for other characteristics, maybe someone older, maybe someone younger. But yeah, in the overall strategy, think about it for long term, and maybe the activities when you are doing the progress on the bigger goal, that could be changed in less time.
Mhm.
So that in that way, maybe you can see that you're doing something different. You don't feel, or the company doesn't feel stuck. You're doing things, you're trying, but with the small things, not with the overall. Yep.
And something you mentioned earlier comes back to mind right now, that it's like those weekly meetings with sales would definitely help you understand whether your strategy is actually working, right? Because you wouldn't have to wait maybe like those 6 months to see whether the campaign is working. Because if you have conversions and then the sales team would go back to you and say, this is what the client said, then you would start avoiding assumptions, right? And that's how you will start learning. So it's not a matter of changing the strategy more often, but actually learning what if what you know about the client is actually true. So if it's not, then you would start changing those things, right? Because you just mentioned a few examples like faces, call to actions, but this is something that talks about the behavior of your buyer persona, of your client. So it's not a matter of, oh, it's converting, yay. It's like, this is working. Why? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's, believe me, it's not luck. It's you're doing something right when they're converting. It's not just a miracle that it happened. You did the work, you did the research, you understand who you're talking to, and you approach it in a way that is appealing to that person. For sure, it's not luck. Oh, I give the example of the weekly calls, but I have another partner that I know that the company that he works for, they listen to the calls because most of the selling was by calls. So he listened to, I mean, it was like external. It was not one of the representatives. It was someone just in charge of listening to the sales call. So what they say when they start asking questions, what type of questions did they ask? There are similar questions that are repeating among the customers, or the potential customers in this case. And all that data, it's your goal. That's what you work with. And also because sometimes maybe not marketing team, but yeah, the content might get stuck. What else do I tell them? How else can I promote my service or products? The answer is in what they need to hear and what they want, what they're curious or worried about. So your key messages are going to be responding to those. So you don't need to go anywhere else. You have the answer with your customers. Listen to them, understand how they're behaving, what they want, how they feel, and from there, you can also start a new campaign or a new type of messaging.
Yes, that's so true. Be a good listener. That's what makes a good marketer.
For sure. I mean, marketing roles are amazing because you're always connected with many different parts of the company, but also most of the time you have a connection also with the end consumer or user. Um, So that's why normally also you have a good relationship with the founder too, because they want those insights from you. But also you have the creative part that is what I love the most. So it's how you connect those two worlds of like the analytics, but also then make it fun and beautiful for others to feel good about
This has been like very, very insightful.
it.
Before before wrapping this up, are there any other either a practical tip, a note to remember that you would like to say to our audience?
Um, I mean, I will definitely encourage the startups to, if it's possible, to have someone leading this role, not to make anyone to have two hats for this. You want them to be focused, but not focused, but I will say more with their eyes open, like, okay, understanding the world around or understanding everything that's happening, because sometimes you don't have like one stakeholder. Sometimes I know Awana is like that, and many other of my companies. It is the end user, but also there is the partners or the allies that are funding your company, or you have the ones that are using your service, but then there are others that are promoting it. So there is two different people to talk to, and it's only the marketing leader sometimes that gets that very well, that is able to separate each one in a way to communicate properly for both of them. Maybe it's more than that. Sometimes maybe it's three different stakeholders, and to use their channels for everyone that you need to communicate. Sometimes it's internal. Maybe you only have one type of customer, but then internally there are other things that are need to be said and done, that are also important. And yeah, sometimes, I mean, what I've seen, it's the marketing leader who knows how to do that best.
Okay. So be aware, all of you startup founders out there, that it's a matter of patience, consistency, and tracking. So that is let's say like a basic summary of what marketing is in the end. So thank you, Maria Angelica, for all of the tips you just gave. I have to actually like hold my tongue to avoid, like our chatting. It's amazing to have you here as a friend, as a ex coworker and a colleague right now. So thank you once more for accepting our invitation, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thanks for tuning in and spending a part of your day with us. We appreciate it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Have questions? Head over to awana.io and ask away.